It unfortunately always just like is, I think, directed with a real reason. The whole, what do you think about? I'm with you. However, you say the USSR's mistakes and the US's crimes quite a difference. Yes, I do, because I don't consider like the Dust Bowl to be a crime. Okay, I consider that to be a mistake. Just like, even though technically you could make the argument that like global famine under abundance, okay, under a global capitalist organization of the economy, we have an abundance of food supply, and yet still 9 million to 14 million people die every year due to diseases related to famine, and directly a consequence of famine. That's before we get into imperialism, right? Now, do I say that that's a crime? I don't, because that is a byproduct of the system, okay? The difference, however, is that when you are pro capitalist and anti communist, you look at mismanagement of resources under communism as a direct crime against the ideology, and yet every death due to famine, in a concept where we already have, in a global system where we already have an abundance of food production, you consider that to be a byproduct of personal responsibility and the failure of personal responsibility. Sorry, child growing up in Indonesia or anywhere else, that you, if you die to famine or famine-related diseases, sorry, child in Yemen, you didn't pick up yourself from your bootstraps. You just didn't do that. Should have tried harder. Okay. Anyway, so Stalin is as communist as I'm a giant sentient muffin. That's also cope, man. That's cope. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sure it's, yes. Stalin didn't create maximum anarcho communism or whatever you believe communism is. It's crazy. No, these are all attempts and failures, okay? But like, it's maximum copium to just be like, no, that's not real communism. It's not. Of course it's not. But you can't just like shoo away because it doesn't fall in your neat designation. You can't just like push it away. In the same way that I used to do it for optics reasons, in my opinion. Like, I used to do this as well. Like, the idea that like, oh, real this is not real communism. Yeah, of course it's not. That doesn't mean it was not like an attempt at a transitional socialist state. Okay, why do we believe another attempt won't fail like the USSR others? Well, the reason why is because there are inevitable inherent contradictions built into the class structure within capitalism. And capitalism, if without any sort of outside intervention, is destined to implode due to those contradictions. Okay, so it's not so much that socialism is like forcibly being brought about, but it's an understandable and necessary evolution from capitalism. This is what I believe in. I believe that, yes, for a time and place, capitalism is very good. I believe that capitalism has also outlived its usefulness. However, those in positions of power do everything it can to maintain it as long as they can. This does not mean that attempts at changing that structure will lead to, you know, death in the future as well. I'm sure there will be possible to change the entire way that the economy is organized without, you know, people dying. People die every day, all the time. It's just that they will point to what I have to say here and go, look, he's violent. It's just like violence is an inevitability under every political structure, and violence certainly exists under capitalism. All I am saying is that social democracy under a capitalist organization of the economy inevitably goes back to barbarism, fascism, and we've seen this happen, in especially so in the last 30, 40 years in all of the global north, specifically in Western nations. We saw it happen. We're watching it unfold in places like Canada. We're seeing it in Europe. We saw it in the UK. America was already always a proto-capitalist country before capitalism, before the Industrial Revolution. It was so perfect for capitalism. It was the most capitalist nation on the planet. Why is communism in Turkey so unpopular? Cold War. Turkey is America's lapdog. Anyway.
We're covering.
Donald Trump sounds off after immunity hearing. This is the real threat to democracy. Capitalism was tried and failed many times in city-states across Europe for hundreds of years, but capitalism was an inevitability, and the internal contradictions of feudalism gave birth to it. Socialism is just as inevitable and necessary as capitalism is. It is a line of human development like Marxism 101. Yeah. Also, the notion that capitalism currently doesn't fail is pretty funny, but I guess, like, what are your metrics for success in that circumstance? Because the same exact dynamic that I mentioned, like famine. If we have famine under abundance, in my opinion, that's a failure. If we have famine when there's no abundance, when famine is commonplace, that is still a failure, but is nowhere near as big a failure that you can attribute to the systems. That's the way I see it. When your only frame of reference is the middle-class suburb in the United States, I'm sure it can seem like it's only successful. Yes, because nobody associates African nations that have been ravaged by American forces, by Western imperialism, to be another beautiful byproduct of capitalist nation states. Nobody ever thinks about fucking any of the other. Nobody thinks about Rwanda or Congo or any of these other countries as like capitalist nations. It's just America. That's the only country that's capitalist. But then again, Americans have horse blinders anyway. They don't even think social democracy exists. So it's stupid. It's stupid to have these conversations. You know what's not a stupid conversation to have though? Trump talking about his immunity hearing.
Covering all of it. When the president steps up and look at that, here he is. Okay. The former president talking today about being in court. Let's listen in even before he starts as they do the setup here.
Sitting president has decided to prosecute his major opponent who's leading in all the polls in the country. The issues that the court had to deal with today were momentous. Whether or not a president of the United States could be prosecuted for carrying out his responsibilities, doing his...
I love the framing of like doing an insurrection is the literal responsibility of the president. Like, Your Honor, I'm sorry, he had to do it to him. He had to do it to him for the one time. You don't get it.
His job as president. We can't have a country where every 4 years there's a cycle of political recrimination where one administration attacks a prior administration when in fact that candidate is leading in the polls and will be the next president of the United States. As our legal team, as our appellate team made clear, that would be a disaster for our country. That would be a direct attack on democracy, and that cannot happen. What was very significant today, and I'm sure you all caught it, is the special counsel conceded that if it was President Obama who was being prosecuted for a drone strike, then they'd have to consider immunity. But when it's not, when it's President Trump, then they're taking the position that there's no immunity for President.
Yeah, first of all, this is such a funny take because Donald Trump also literally, I think, killed a direct relative of the person that Obama killed, the American citizen that Obama extrajudiciously killed. Donald Trump also facilitated in a raid which ended up killing that person's sister. So the idea that this is a specifically Barack Obama thing is so silly. Why is it silly? Because clearly you're not up there for that reason. You killed an American citizen extrajudiciously as well, literally directly related to the person that Barack Obama had killed prior. Okay? Ain't nobody's making a big stink out of that, dog. You want to know why? Because that's America, baby. That's America enforcing its might around the globe. And that's precisely the reason why nobody cares about that. Nobody is going to prosecute for that. They should. In a just world, you should be prosecuted for that. The difference is they're prosecuting you for an insurrection, okay? You didn't do that for the continuation of American hegemony. You did that for the continuation of your own power. And that you can't really do, right? That's it. Also, the other dude he had killed with the marshals, even that doesn't count. Even that is not considered to be inappropriate because that's that's still the president sending the marshals, utilizing the actual the actual existing power structures against a criminal who has already given up their rights. Obviously, innocent until proven guilty. But if you're a socialist or if you're a leftist or whatever, and you killed a fascist, then you're no longer innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty until they kill you, and then you're extra guilty. So, that's something to consider. That is not up for contention on this day. Okay? Your crimes today are of the top of the hour variety. Okay? Forgetting to run the top of the hour variety. The biggest crime of all time. Because at the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If I were to forget that, even though apparently 35% of Twitch's staff has been laid off today, I would lose my job. I wouldn't, but I'd be void of my contract. But if you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get 1 free Prime subscription a month. Use it on your favorite broadcaster. Hopefully that's me. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Boom. Hey, Hassan, did you know 30 billion